Good morning. Hello. Welcome to practice. It's so nice to be back. Before we get into today's practice, I have some things I wanted to share. Just two things I wanted to share from my travels that I thought maybe you'd find interesting. Little a little history and things that I didn't know before, so maybe you'll find them interesting. Good morning, Brandy. So I brought back four statues, three small ones, small ones, and one big one. I'm going to share two of them with you today because they're very unique, and because the one I knew nothing about, the other one I've never seen anything like it. So I hope you'll enjoy. This statue that I brought back is of the goddess that we call Gaia in the United States. In the US, we say Gaia, but in Greece, they say Yeia, Yeia, or Ye. So I thought I'd share because I'll, yes, happy snowy day from Mount Shasta. It's snowy down here in Dunsmuir too. Woke up to snow. I wanted just to see, let me see if I can hold her for each of these. You see the birds on her head? There's two birds. She's wearing a crown of birds. And sometimes in some of these statues, she's wearing three birds. This is her aspect as Mother Nature. And in the ancient world, she would be depicted with two or three birds on her head. When I first saw this statue, thought it might be Aphrodite or Aphrodite, because she is often accompanied by doves. But no, actually, it's Yeya. So those are the two main things I wanted to share about this statue. One is that we've been saying it wrong all along. It's not Gaia, it's Yeya. And of course that in the seventh grade part of my brain goes, let me hear you say yeah, yeah. But then the second is that the statue with the two birds on her head symbolizes her role as the Earth Mother. Something I think is interesting about this is that I have two statues of Guanyin at the Sacred Well where she's crowned with birds. And obviously it's not the same thing, but connotes the relationship to the natural world. So this is a reproduction of a terracotta of Yeya. The second I wanted to share is a statue of Aphrodite that is unlike any other I have ever seen. It is large, and I had to be really creative in my carry-on in how to get this statue home, but she made it in one piece. This statue is a reproduction of a headless statue. So they've reimagined the head of this statue based on similar statues. But this is Aphrodite of the polis, Aphrodite of the city. And she's wearing a tall canonical headdress, which is often associated with goddesses of the cities in various different traditions in the Mediterranean and the ancient world. But then if you look at her body is not depicted as being this kind of, I hope you can see her beautiful face here. I'm holding her here, and her body. Her body is not depicted as being this like kind of sexed out object of desire, which is so unique to Aphrodite, depictions of Aphrodite. Instead, she has on her very wide hips and wide belly a sacred symbol that connotes growth and fertility, the muses, the sun and the moon, something that looks like Apollo or Poseidon, but I think it's Apollo, and maybe Artemis, but it also might be a smaller version of Aphrodite. And then there's these three cherubs, but they might be symbolic of Eros, her son. And she's got this long trailing skirt. And it's just such a different representation than we usually see of Aphrodite. I am really excited about this one. It's going to go into the temple on the shrine for Aphrodite there. Um, and it's going to really serve, I think, as a very important visual reminder that Aphrodite was more than a goddess to be consumed or devoured by the male gaze. Yeah, of course, Josiah. I hope one day you can come down and see in person. Um, and I just felt like even though the statue is really heavy and it took up a ton of space in my luggage, I felt like I had to bring her home because in America, we have nothing like this representation of Aphrodite. We only have these kind of like, you know, like very much designed for the male gaze. But I've always known that Aphrodite is so much more than what she's been reduced to in American culture and in many of the Hellenistic myths as well. Um, yeah, I love Autumn says, I love that her beauty is not sexualized. She's so much more. Exactly. And I like that she's also, looks a lot like us. She's got big hips and a broad belly so that she's got real estate so that all this art can be depicted here. It's just really special. So I'm going to be installing her at the shrine in the temple when I go over there, maybe today, maybe I'll wait until tomorrow or Thursday to put her there. But I'm going to be putting her so that the shrine kind of focuses on her. And then I also have another statue of Aphrodite that is like a young spring maiden, not super sexualized, surrounded by flowers. Her face is upturned. I've deliberately avoided the more sexualized representations of Aphrodite, not because she's not a goddess of beauty, pleasure, and passion, but because beauty, pleasure, and passion are intrinsic to so many other things, like that are not specifically sexual and certainly not designed specifically for the male gaze. Beauty, pleasure, and passion are also for art. Beauty, pleasure, and passion are also for defense of what's right. Beauty, pleasure, and passion are also in the culture of our food and our relationship to the natural world. And in fact, in a non nationalistic way, beauty, pleasure, and passion should also be tethered to our ancestral cultures and the cultures that gave rise to the cultures that we now live in. So, oh, yeah. And Kirsten says, she's so beautiful. Love her and all she represents. Thanks for your enthusiasm. As I'm looking in on all of this with the comments, it's nice to see that you get it too, and that you can see why it was so important for me to bring her home. I brought home two other small statues, which I'll share at another time. One is of the Virgin Mary from Ephesus, and also a mature body. And the other is a classical representation of the many-breasted Artemis that I got in Ephesus. I had to. You can hardly blame me. I also got a very small, little, tiny. It was the only one representation of Hestia, and it's now sitting above my hearth in the other room. So this is like, this was I I went to Greece and Cyprus and Turkey so that I could bring home statues that we don't get here. And the next time I go, I did start to make connections there with some of the merchants and vendors. It's not always universally easy to make those connections. I tried a lot, I succeeded a few times. But in the future, I hope to make connections with some of the merchants there because I would love for my store to be able to offer some of the beautiful representations that are so different than what we get here. And a quote that accompanied us on our journeys was, failing that, we can invent. And I know there are some amazing artists out there who now could maybe sculpt or make their own representations that would be gorgeous as well. So that's my little pilgrimage share. I'm going to be unpacking this pilgrimage for a long time. Probably the whole winter. Little things will surface here and there, and I'll share what seems to be useful with you. Um, Bag still hasn't come, so that's like all of my clothes. So, you know, if you wouldn't mind sending up a little prayer that if it's the right thing, the right and proper thing, my bag makes its way back to me, I'd certainly appreciate it because this one bra is getting a big workout, big workout. All right, today and every day for November, honoring Santa Muerte. Madre mía, Santa Muerte, ante las dificultades de la vida, ayúdame. En mis desaciertos, ilumíname. En mis soledades, acompáñeme. En las horas difíciles, fortaléceme. En más tentaciones, defiéndeme. En las peñas y tristezas, consuélame. Con tu inmenso poder, protégeme. Con tu infinito amor, ámame. Con tu gran bondad, mírame. Con tu mano providente, guíame. Así sea por siempre. Amen. This is a prayer to Santa Muerte that I read online. It was not attributed, but I set it to music, and that's where this song comes from. And oh, thank you, Leslie. I appreciate it. This is a prayer that has gotten me through a lot of rough times. Santa Muerte turns no one away, and she can afford to be gentle because she is so inimitably ferocious. Death takes us all, and her sure-footed knowing of that, her deep knowing that there's no one who can avoid her, is the source of her ferociousness. And her ferociousness is the source of her gentleness. And I was thinking about a quote that I've seen about, um, not to take nice people or kind people for granted, that their kindness isn't usually because they're weak. Their kindness is because of everything that they've endured and everything that they have had to cope with that's made them very strong. And I think for us all who do this practice, I know many of you personally, and I think that is an accurate statement for most of us, that a lot of us tend to be gentle and kind and forgiving, even when we're upset, even when we're ferociously mad about something. That we all have our moments, but that a lot of us tend to be pretty gentle and kind and forgiving and soft-hearted because of everything that we've endured, not in spite of it, but because of it. So that prayer is a gentle prayer, but at every turn, it's a reminder, like, every line of that prayer is saying, in my times of shadow, illuminate me. In my times of struggle, strengthen me. In my times of desolation, walk beside me. Um, Look upon me with your immense power and your favor. Be there with me when I face my struggles. And the strength that emerges when we know we are walking with Goddess means that we don't really ever feel the need to dominate anyone or to try to force them to anything. Instead, we can just be in our gentle strength. And so, I've taken these words, which are like these strengthening words, and put them with a gentle music to kind of suggest that marriage. So I didn't pick up our deck yesterday because I got to my store yesterday and discovered in the basement there was and remains a tremendous leak from a 50-gallon hot water heater. And now it's snowed. And so I wonder if when I go down there today, it's going to be an ice skating rink. So I was a little distracted yesterday, but I did hunt down my landlord, and he's going to come meet me today. And we're going to look at it together, and we're going to see what we can do about I would say it's a hot mess, but it's actually a cold mess. The cold mess in the basement. I'm not too worried about it. It'll all dry out eventually, and it's just water. So we're going to be with the Priestess of Light Oracle one more day today. Oh, what a fantastic antidote to yesterday's hostility. Today, oh, Lizzie says, I believe I heard you sing the word stinta, which means love in the Modoc language. Oh my gosh. There is a word in that prayer that sounds very similar to that. I love to hear that. Thank you for sharing that, Lizzie. Okay, so yesterday's card was hostility, and oh my goodness, that was like landed on me like a ton of bricks. Not anything specific, just like there was a lot of trial yesterday with the hot water heater explosion, and then somebody in one of my Facebook groups kind of like got really nasty for no reason, and I had to kind of try to negotiate as kindly as possible with that person, and just a lot of tension in the air yesterday. And so today we have tenderness. Thank you. Thank you. Tenderness. What a fantastic antidote. True love and compassion. Let's find out about tenderness. Page 44. This card foretells the coming of a new or increasing love in your life. It may seem to arise from out of the blue, or it may be a relationship that's been developing for quite some time. Either way, feelings of tenderness, as portrayed in this sweet kiss, will soon be intensifying. The brilliant gold that suffuses this tender moment indicates a purity in the connection being forged, radiating the sense of a deep heart to heart bond. It may be even a karmic calling, a relationship that extends from lifetime to lifetime. Because, and you can see in the card, it's a woman, she's kissing the nose of a giraffe. The giraffe is, the giraffe is the symbol, the international symbol for nonviolent communication. Because of its great height, the giraffe has an advantage over other animals. That is the ability to see far into the distance. The message here is to be honest about your perspective on love. Be sure not to limit your view of your deserving or of your future potential. Even if you've been hurt in the past or you feel that you've been alone for far too long, true love is on the horizon. Remember that the tenderness you give to yourself will be reflected back to you in the brilliant light and love that the universe will be sending your way. And the affirmation for this card, I open my heart and my life to true love. I deserve tender kindness from others, and I give it to myself. What a great divination. I once had a friend who said to me, treat yourself the way you wish a lover would treat you. And I'll never forget that piece of wise advice from Aaron. Um, that was some good advice. And I feel like, there's a lot of language in like the manifestation of love. And I know that for somebody who's been alone for a long time, sometimes, to be perfectly honest, that can feel like BS. Somebody will be like, yeah, yeah, like be nice to myself. Self care. Yeah, I've been doing that for years. It hasn't changed anything. And I just want to acknowledge, I respect that feeling. I totally understand. Um, but yeah, it is. Autumn says it so well. Your most important love affair is the one you have with yourself, yet it's the one that's the most overlooked. And I also think, pursuant to our shares about Aphrodite this morning, love is so much bigger than just the romantic attentions of one person. And it's been my experience time and again, both personally in myself and with my clients who I work with in readings, that in order to find love, you actually have to become love. It's not saying like you've got to love yourself before you love anyone else, or oh, if you treat yourself the way you wish a lover would treat you, it'll automatically happen. It's not that simple. It's not that simple. It's actually that you have to become love in order to experience love to its fullest. Everything else might have a more appropriate other label, such as attraction, infatuation, dependence, affection, kindness, m- mutual appreciation. But none of those is the fullness of love. Each of those is one drop in the bucket of love. Love is bigger than any of those individual, unique manifestations of it. And when we make it the goal to have that one on one love relationship, which is not wrong to make it the goal, in order to attain that drop, we have to become the bucket. So then all of the drops in the bucket could be that love. All of a sudden, possibilities appear that were previously unknown to us. And I know this to be true because I took an entire year of celibacy. When I first became interested in relationships in my teenage years, I formed an idea of what I thought a relationship should be. And there were parts of that formation that were really great. And there were parts of it that were really immature and kind of silly now that I look back on it. But after 20 years, from say when I was about 15 until I was 35, I was really looking for love in all the wrong places. And I was wanting love to happen for me, but I wasn't insisting that love needed to be any one way. I was instead, um, kind of just like taking whatever came and hoping I could somehow forge it into the love that I wanted, rather than holding a vision for the love that I really wanted and waiting for something to come along that actually matched that vision. And I don't think that anyone's vision should be so complicated that it would be impossible, but I had a clear vision of what I knew love should feel like. It should feel safe. It should feel stimulating. It should feel a little challenging and exciting. It should feel like it helped me grow. It should feel like I could be myself, but not that I could just make it anything goes. It had to have boundaries, but it had to have freedom. It had to have sex and sexuality, but it also needed to have tenderness and innocence. It needed to have a focus on pleasure, but it also needed to sustain pain. It needed this combination of paradoxical things. seemingly paradoxical things. And now that Albert came into my life and he shows me those things on a regular basis, I know that it's my job to take care of it. It's my job to take care of that love. And so I try to protect that love by being love as best I can. And sure, we get in fights, things bother me, things bother him. We, get annoyed with each other. Sometimes we just sitting staring at our phones, no spark, nothing happening there. Other times we're just like completely infatuated with each other. The waves that this love has represented in my life, the oceanic waves of love, have shown me all the many different ways that love can exist. So, my recommendation to anyone who is seeking this kind of tenderness, whether you're already partnered or not, whether you want to revive something or you want something new, whether you want to be more loving in the world, is to start with what you know feels like love and try to expand that ripple out into the world in wider and wider arcs so that it's like if it's easy for you to be love with your child, then try to bring that same consciousness to your neighbor. Be that kind of love with your neighbor. Obviously not like wiping your neighbor's nose, but caring about them that way. Caring about them that way, in that tender way. With if what you want is more passion in your existing relationship, start by being that passion, by thinking about little things that will bring delight. Learn to get over the resentment that the delight isn't there already, and instead produce the delight. And if the other person doesn't respond to the delight that you're producing, then it is possible that maybe that's not your person anymore. But if the person is really your true love, they will respond to the delight that you produce. And you're not producing delight to get them to do anything. You're producing delight because you want to live in delight. You want to live in delight. You want to live in the light. So, today, let's do everything with the utmost tenderness. Let's remember that every single person we encounter today has a little inner child who still wants to play, who still has a mischievous little smile, who still has tousled hair and looks like an angel when they're sleeping. Let's remember today that everybody we encounter has something about them that if we knew it, we would find adorable. And let's adore it. That's our short bit for today, if that's what you were here for. And now let's dive into practice with 3 prostrations before the shrine. And let's take refuge. Namo Guru Be. I take refuge in the inner teacher. Namo Buddhaye. I take refuge in the great mother of compassion. Namo Dharmaye. I take refuge in the wisdom of the ages. Namo Sanghaye. I take refuge in the community of practitioners. And let's set our intention today. Let's set the intention of tenderness for the whole world. And let's recite the Four Immeasurables. May I be a source of loving kindness in this world and all worlds, bringing a generous heart to all my thoughts and doings. May I be a vehicle of compassion in this world and all worlds, ever mindful and aware of the tremendous suffering of others. May I be a brimming vessel of joy in this world and all worlds, delighting in the happiness of others as their suffering is alleviated. May I be a balance point of equanimity in this world and all worlds, seeing all as equals and all as deserving of goodness. I light this candle as a symbol of the enlightening Dharma way. May it shine brightly for the benefit of all beings. I light this incense as an offering for Guanxi Yin, she who hears the cries of the world, mother of all. Om Ahum. 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 Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind and present clouds of every type of offering, actual and virtual. I confess all my destructive actions accumulated since beginningless time and rejoice in the meditation of all holy and ordinary beings. Please, Guanyin, remain until the end of samsaric existence and turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. I dedicate my own merits and those of others to the great enlightenment. 108 recitations of Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa, remembering and honoring the one who always treats us with tenderness, even when she's riding on the back of her dragon, even when she's setting boundaries, even when she's fending off evil. She always has tenderness for all beings. Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa, 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 Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa. Namo Guan Shi Yin Pu Sa. 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 Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa. 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 And the brief prayer summoning prosperity by Jamgyom Mipam Rinpoche. Hung Choksum Sasum Natang Chakye Tu Tenyo Sishi Chayang Getsen Kun Dirku Derdu Pelge Minu Par Deki Tashi Letso Pelbar Sho. Whom, by the power of mantras and mudras of the three jewels and the three roots, may all the good omens, abundance, and prosperity of the animate and inanimate universe, both samsara and nirvana, be summoned and gathered here and expand without ever declining, so that the splendor of happiness, well being, auspiciousness, and all that is good may blaze forth. Hung Chuksum Sasum Natang Chake Tu Tenyo Sishi Chayang Gitsen Kun Dirku Dirdu Pelge Minu Par Deki Tashi Lexok Palbar Sho. Now 108 recitations of Om Mani Padme Hum, sending out all of the tenderness that we have to all those who need it. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 I think there's 4 more. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. I dropped the mala mid-chant, so I had to approximate, but now I feel complete. Let's give thanks for our teachers. May all of my blessed teachers enjoy long, happy, healthy, productive lives and great support for their good works. May all beings benefit from their wisdom. May they enjoy a swift and happy rebirth. And long life prayer for Lamadein Yeshiwangmo. Om Sosti. Through the powerful blessings of the immortal Pema Jungye and his consort, may the 3 secret qualities of the Dakini of Supreme Bliss Yeshiwangmo be utterly stable, and may the light of her activities shine on the lotus groves of the teachings and of beings, so that they blossom in radiant splendor. And let's dedicate the merit. May the merit of this practice and all of my activities be of endless benefit to all beings in all realms, beginningless and continuous. May all obstacles be overcome and suffering cease at the sound of liberation. May all beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all beings have happiness and its causes. May we carry the essence of Guanyin in our hearts. Namo Guanxian Pusa. And we close with a bow to Guanyin, bow to one another, and a bow to the inner teacher, wishing everyone a really good day, a day of tenderness and kindness. And I'll be back tomorrow. Bye now.